Good morning. This is Stuff I Find Interesting. I think we're on episode 10. A little bit of a break in there. I haven't looked at these bookmarks for like a week. I think I did it last week. I prepared it, but then I never did it. So I don't really remember what's in there. Probably lots of fun stuff, but we're going to get going. And before we do, I just want to say that I don't work at a strip club. I work at this place called B-Sides. It's a restaurant, and we only serve foods that start with the letter B and beverages too. So, anyway, moving on. First, Dr. Dre beats, but they're medieval. How cool is that? Right? We got Indie Club, explosive California love. Good stuff, right? All right. I'll put that in the links, and you can rock out to it, like because what's not to rock out? Now, last time I was talking about a movie because we were talking about South Dakota or North Dakota, and there was like this bomb shelter thing, and I said it reminded me of the scene. It's not really important, but it drove me crazy that I couldn't remember the movie, and I found the movie, and it's called Cipher, and it's from like a while ago. Let me see. I don't know. Jeremy Northam's still really hot in it though, so I'm thinking it's like a little bit ago. He's a very handsome man. Anyway, it's a good movie. You should check it out. It's about the universe not really being what we think it is, and there's like a born supremacy thing kind of going on in there. It's a good movie, good flick. I enjoyed it. Some more stuff about the Dakotas that I found when I was cleaning up my bookmarks is that there's an underground research facility in, is it South Dakota or North Dakota? South Dakota, right? SD, South Dakota. Oh my God, I'm so dumb. Anyway, check this shit out. Wait, where is it? This is the Davis campus, and this is one of the deepest underground labs in the world. And the cool part about this, the interesting part, is that there was something here. I know it was. I know there was something here I wanted to talk about. Oh, okay, yeah. So it was originally for a neutrino experiment. There was like a cage kind of thing that was built, and now the neutrino experiments are taking place. I think in the Arctic or Antarctica. I don't know. They're really far underground, but they're isolated away from civilization, so as to avoid any, I don't know, whatever I guess can happen if you have a neutrino lab that's too close to stuff. And they took out this giant cage thing. So this is the thing that housed the neutrinos, and this is what it looked like before they started putting in the new lab. And yeah, so it's pretty cool, right? I guess you can go there. So if you want, you could. And if you see smoke, my place is not on fire. It's incense, you know. So I was creating a little ambiance. We got the Dr. Tray. We got the incense. This is a classy joint. This is just another thing to add. This is going back to the Ptolemy stone tower thing, and this was a paper that I forgot to include. That's actually one of the better papers that's like academically sourced and stuff. Some of the stuff that I share can be like a little woo, but some of it is very much grounded in reality and the scientific method. And you know, you know, I don't know. It's Friday. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning. I can't think straight. What else have I got? Oh yeah, the Romanian tunnels. So we were talking about the Busej Mountains, and in these mountains, we were saying that there are these tunnels or tunnel-shaped areas that supposedly house this ancient library and an alien base, and I think I covered it all. Anyway, I said, whenever there's conspiracy, there's always a little bit of truth. And Romania apparently has thousands of, maybe not thousands, maybe hundreds, tens of kilometers, the tunnels. They go back to the 13th century. People dug them out to take cover from Tatar incursions. Some say they were built during the 17th century. They were probably built at all different times. There's probably cooler pictures out there, but I thought it was interesting that we were talking about tunnels, and here we have tunnels. It's interesting to think about what's beneath our feet, right? Like what's beneath my feet, right? Pretty sure there's tunnels below me because I'm like right in the main city, and I know there's some like bomb shelters from like the 40s and 50s, and it used to be kind of all connected, and then some of the tunnels got closed off. But I'm pretty sure there's probably some below me right now. More wrap up from last time. This is the academic part about the glaciokarst. So glaciokarst is what would eventually lead to holes, spaces within mountainous areas, and that's just what this is about. So this is not saying that there's an alien base in the mountains or an ancient library with wisdom or tunnels that lead to, was it Mount Shasta? Mount Kailash? It was Mount Kailash, right? This just talks about the actual structure that probably exists and the reason for those areas. All the same, that's not to say that people did not take advantage of those areas in unusual and interesting ways that we might not understand right now. Okay, so the first topic, and I'm going to shrink myself because I don't want to be so big, is we've been talking about other gods that were worshipped in history. Like we think about, Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, the big guys, right? Well, there have been lots of other big guys. They just didn't stay around. Now, when I was looking into the mountains, the Busej Mountains in Romania, I found out that the Busej Mountains were the home of Zalmoxis. Now, who is Zalmoxis? I guess he was a regular person and he was a slave, and then he somehow became a deity. He was the bravest of the Thracians. So this is going back to definitely BC. I don't recall how far back, but enough far back that there was no, like, Christianity as we think of it obviously didn't exist. But he disappeared for like 3 years or something. Like he dug an underground thing and then he like disappeared into it, and then he was gone for 3 years, and then he came back and everybody was like, dude, what happened to you? And he's like, oh yeah, blah 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 blah. And he talks about the underground chamber and where he was, and how he's a deity now, and it's a whole thing. But it's really interesting that the mountains in Romania are where this guy comes from, and it ties into, that's probably why people have these beliefs about the area, right? If there's all this myth and history, and maybe there is actual history, like maybe there was a cool guy that really lived there and did a lot of awesome stuff, and his name just kind of, kept going. But it really goes into the Zalmoxian religion. I apologize. Let me put that over there so you don't have to look at his. It's probably was cold. So it's been debated for a long time exactly what it was. Were they polytheistic? Were they monotheistic? Was Zalmoxis a sky god? Did he live in the caverns? So there's a lot of discussion as to what he actually was, but the conclusion is that there probably was someone that existed. And for a little bit, there was a Christianish religion with Zalmoxis at the head as the deity in these mountains, worshipped by the Romanian people in a paganistic, polytheistic kind of way. And by paganistic, I don't mean sacrificing chickens or, dancing naked. I mean the worship of nature, I guess is really what I mean. Now, Zalmoxis has it's in a lot of popular culture, which is kind of interesting. You could just type in Zalmoxis. I think there's like a prog rock band that called themselves Zalmoxis. There is a species of, I want to say snail. There's some sort of animal that's named Zalmoxis, and I don't see why it would be named that, but it's cool sounding, right? I think if I had a dog, like a big, crazy-looking dog. I'd name him Zalmoxis. I could call him Mox. Mox for short, right? Moxis. Now, Kogaionon is the sacred mountain where Zalmoxis stayed in the cave for 3 years. But people don't actually agree on where it's located. So, right, you have like Romania. Romania is a pretty big place, and there are kind of mountains that curve around the bottom of it, and it's not known if the mountain is like over here, is it over here? It's a pretty big area, but the speculation is that it might very well be the Busoj Mountains. And Kogaionon means sacred mountain, which would be connected to a probable Dacian word kaga, meaning sacred, attested in two early 2nd century inscriptions from Tomis. I don't know who Tomis is. Who's Tomis? Oh, I don't know how did I end up there? Where'd you go? Oh, that is Tomis. I guess it's a place. Okay. Oh yeah, I was gonna like curate this and sort this out and make it like way more interesting than I'm about to make it because I'm just about to be really incredibly lame. Um, I was looking into Victorian lantern slides. It was like, if you remember what were those things called? Viewfinders. Where you put come on, cat. Where you put the thing in it and then you. Well, it was kind of a similar. What are you doing? Sit down. Come on. It was kind of like a similar, like a similar thing. And this cat, she wants to chew on the microphone again. There's pieces of the microphone missing, and it's because of her, because she likes to chew them. You see this? I thought this was a cool picture. Anyway, I'll share the link, and you can just kind of bug out over some of these pictures because they're kind of cool. Yeah, something else I didn't curate, but a cool picture by Edward Fierlantz, 1860 to 1862. Album in print, varnished with gelatin. It's in the George Eastman Museum, the Eastman Kodak Company, which reminds me of like when I was a kid, when you took pictures, you had to go to like a photo booth and you had to drop it off and it got processed. Ow! And then you had to you had to wait, and then you'd go and you'd pick it up and you'd be like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, and you'd look through the pictures and you'd bug out and be like, oh, that's a good one, oh, that's a bad one. And now it's so easy. Not to sound like an old person or something, but I had to kick the cat down. She wanted to bite and play, and obviously I'm busy, so I can't do that. The Wonders of Mali. I was just sitting around thinking about Mali in Africa and how little I know about it. And so I was looking up some stuff about the ancient cities, but the thing that caught my attention is the Dogon people, and they lived in caves and in like up in the mountains. And here's some of the geological wonders of Mali that you can look at, and there's some cool stuff in there. And I meant to pluck this apart a little bit more to show you and have it better prepared, but I didn't do that. But I don't want to like go back and do that because now I've moved on, right? I'm thinking about other interesting things. So we're just gonna do this and put it out there, and that will free me up to move into the next batch of stuff, which is already ready to go pretty much, except I have to go through it a little bit. So we were talking about the Silk Road. There's also a salt, sand, and slavery road in Mauritania, the ancient caravan routes. And this was a really cool article. I liked some of the pictures. Family of nomads from Wadi Kat, Mauritania, inside of a tent. Not a yurt, but a tent. Street market. That's jewelry. When I did antiques and collectibles, I once got an African fetish necklace, but I didn't know what it was. And I brought it with me to like a flea market, which is where I would like bring all my cheap stuff to just like unload. And the expensive stuff I would do collector to collector, but the cheap stuff and I thought that it was just a cheap thing, and so it was on my costume jewelry thing, and someone bought it for $1, and then I found out afterwards what it was, and I was like, oh. I mean, they can go for like $1,000. I'm not even kidding. It's like a whole thing. So here's some salt. This seemed way more interesting when I first looked at it. I think in my head I was gonna make it way more interesting, but this is the if this is the top of Africa, you can see we have the elbow. Um, this just kind of shows the different routes that were taken. And if you remember that map that we looked at way back, there was a forest in the Sahara Desert, and it was right here around Bilma. So I'll have to look into Bilma and see what the history is there. Maybe not quite Bilma, but maybe like right here is where there was a forest or an oasis. It shows up on a lot of old maps. Okay, so Underland Spain. I was looking up cave people, and I came across this community that I was not familiar with. This is in Guadix, a southern Spanish region that hosts around 2,000 caves. For generations, these caves have been used as homes. For thousands of years, caves were the most popular choice. Cave building in Spain began when Arab settlers brought the tradition with them from the troglodyte communities of North Africa. Because remember, Spain is like, here's Africa, and Spain's like right here. Like it looks over. Hello, how you doing, Africa? So there's a cave-dwelling community in Sacromonte, which also means sacred mountain. I guess that's the theme right now, is the sacred mountain. And after the 1492 conquest of Granada by the Catholic kings, the area's Muslim and Jewish populations were ordered to convert to Christianity or face expulsion. Instead, these residents moved into the caves of the Sacromonte Hill together with the nomadic gypsy community. Because the area was considered a marginal frontier, the population was safe from administrative control in the ecclesiastical order. Most of the Muslim, Jewish, and Gypsy families escaped to Guadix and nearby towns, making their cave houses as a way of protection and survival. Nowadays, the caves are home to a unique and quietly proud community that prefers the peaceful solitude of the mountains over a busy modern life. Sounds really nice to me. So there's two areas of the Sacromonte Hill. There's the lower part where it's more organized and lawful, and then there's sort of a top area, which is a no man's land created by legal vacuums. So there's people that live up there illegally, and there's also, but on the lower part, it's the gypsies and their descendants, and especially those with deeper roots and family ties who have returned to recover their ancestral homes. The traditional Spanish flamenco was born in the caves of Sacromonte more than 400 or 500 years ago, and to this day, these families retain the traditional cave lifestyle with more strength than ever. So here are some pictures of people in their caves. You can see this person has, I don't know if that's wallpaper. I guess that we can look over here. That must be wallpaper. Here's a guy in his cave, walking across the top of the caves. They look like an interesting couple, don't they? I, too, put guns around my family photos. This is I believe these are gentlemen from Senegal. More caves, kids running around playing. What an interesting thing. Now, I saw this, and it set off some bells in my head, and I was like, where have I seen this before? That's interesting. Where have I seen this before? So I started thinking and thinking and thinking, because that's what I do. And I was looking at some more pictures. So you can go there, you can visit. There's some like touristy stuff. Here's some stuff about it. There's like churches, and that looks cool. It just talks about the stuff that you can visit when you're there. It looks like a very cool place. But I'm still thinking, right? I'm thinking about these caves, right? I'm like, where have I seen this before? That's so cool. So where I've seen it before is in my favorite painting by my favorite painter, which is El Jaleo by John Singer Sargent. And here we have the painting. And this is in one of the caves. And this is a flamenco dancer. Now, once upon a time, and this is for real reals, I used to teach dance. And when I first started working, teaching dance, I thought that I was going to be this amazing dancer and I was going to learn all this cool stuff. And I was going to be like a flamenco dancer, right? So we have a flamenco dancer. Alas, I am not a good flamenco dancer, but I didn't do that style of dancing. It was ballroom dance instruction. So it was like the foxtrot and then traditional tango where you travel across the floor, or the rumba. Definitely not flamenco. But for 2 months, every Friday, I would go down to Katona in New York, and I would meet Boris and Sasha. No, I think Sasha was the guy. Olga was the girl. Anyway, Russian dance couple, very high up in like the dance world. Like they've already had won a bunch of stuff, and so they were coasting off of that fame. I used to go see them, and we would go over hand and head styling. So you see how this woman, she's doing this stuff with her hands. Obviously, I'm yeah, I'm like throwing gang signs over here. Anyway, when you dance, there's a certain way you should hold your head and your shoulders, and there's certain things that you should do with your hands that add grace and elegance and style to what you're trying to do. And I remember that because I was not good at hand styling. I was not good at styling. I was a good teacher, though. Not a good dancer, but I was a good teacher. Here we have some more photos of the caves and the caves people. I'll include this in the link so that you can check it out. Just an interesting way of life. And I kind of want to go there. Look at that. So this is gypsy children playing in a house. It's an Andalusian town known for its cave houses. And in the background we have a Baroque cathedral. Man, someone should go fix it if it's Baroque. In headlines, the clock of the long now. The first time I heard about this, I rolled my eyes really hard because it seemed like a vanity project of like a bunch of rich people trying to make some stupid statement, right? Because they have like no sense and all kinds of money. But the more I looked into this, the more I kind of came to the conclusion that no, there's something to this. So this is a clock that's been built that is supposed to last for 10,000 years. It's hundreds of feet tall. It's engineered to require minimal maintenance and is powered by a mechanical energy harvested from sunlight, as well as the people that visit it. We hope that one of them will be you. So you can go visit this place. It's in the ground. It will mark time with astronomic and calendric displays and a chime generator designed with the help of Brian Eno. Brian Eno, I know who that is. That can produce over 3.5 million unique bell chime sequences, one for every day the clock is visited for the next 10,000 years. 10,000 years is about the age of modern civilization, so the clock will measure out a future of civilization equal to its past. This assumes that our civilization is in the middle of whatever journey we are on, an implicit statement of optimism, to be sure. To see the clock, you need to start at dawn, like any pilgrimage. It will require a day's hike to reach its interior gears. It is still being assembled deep in a mountain in West Texas. Very forward-thinking thing for Texas, no? So why build a giant clock? Like, why do that? So there's a couple of reasons. They say, number one, to make people ask that question. Why would anybody build a clock for 10,000 years? It's also the challenge of building a clock for 10,000 years. And it's also to make people think about long time and deep time. And the larger question by Jonas Salk, who is the penicillin guy. Are we being good ancestors? You know, it gets us thinking about, well, where are we going to be in 10,000 years? What is that going to look like? 10,000 years, the lifespan, I hope, for the clock is about as long as the history of human technology. We have fragments of pots that old. Geologically, it's in the blink of an eye. When you start thinking about building something that lasts that long, the real problem is not decay and corrosion or even the power source. The real problem is people. If something becomes unimportant to people, it gets scrapped for parts. If it becomes important, it turns into a symbol and must eventually be destroyed. The only way to survive over the long run is to be made out of materials large and worthless, like Stonehenge and the pyramids, or to become lost. We built the clock to imagine new ways to survive without becoming lost. 10,000 years from now, can you imagine that day? Okay, but do you? Okay, eye roll. Do you believe the future is going to happen if the clock works the way it's supposed to? Do you believe there will be a human being around to witness, let alone mourn its passing, to appreciate its accomplishment, its faithfulness, its immense antiquity? What about 5,000 years from now, or even 500? Can you extend the horizon of your expectations for our world, for our complex of civilizations and cultures, beyond the lifetime of your own children of the next 2 or 3 generations? So it goes on about how it's about mechanism and myth, and how it's about uh, thinking about the planet. You know, I cannot imagine the future, but I care about it. I know I am a part of a story that starts long before I can remember and continues long beyond when anyone will remember me. I sense that I am alive at a time of important change, and I feel a responsibility to make sure that the change comes out well. I plant my acorns knowing that I will never live to harvest the oaks. Okay. Another headline. And again, these headlines are old and new. They're just stuff I found, and I went, oh, the return of the spirit horse to Canada. So I didn't realize it, but North America has a surviving native breed of horse when the Spanish arrived, and they're known as spirit horses. Snow explained that she was a young girl living in northwestern Ontario when she overheard some elders talking about these small, hardy horses that lived free in the boreal forest. She was captivated. I thought to myself, someday I'm going to find them. She traveled around and to kind of find out more information about these horses. The breed that has survived is due to an event Snow depicts in her painting. So she's got some painting stuff going on. The heist across the ice by the light of the moon. I'm sorry, I keep clearing my throat. It's a story that could have been written in Hollywood. In 1977, only 4 mares remained on an island in Lac La Croix, northwestern Ontario. Having deemed the wild animals a health risk, Canadian officials made plans to slaughter them. But before they could do so, 4 Ojibwa men staged a daring rescue. They rounded up the mares, put them on a trailer, and spirited them across the frozen lake and over the border to Minnesota, where they were bred with a Spanish Mustang. Careful management and selective breeding has since revived the Ojibwe spirit horse, which now numbers around 180 and is back in Canada. So it talks about this hardy horse and how it's and kind of, a little bit more about it. It's really cool. They look like really, really awesome horses. More like my speed of horse, like the tall, dainty, sort of super graceful. Yeah, this looks like my kind of horse, right? Plus, it's shorter. It's probably easier to get on. Here's some stuff about the communities where the horses are from. So, it was a nice read. I messed it up, but it was a nice read. Why you should travel to Abkhazia, the renegade republic of the Caucasus. So this land, it's kind of in a weird place, and it's a skeleton of its Soviet self. It used to be more of a, when the Soviet Union was around, it was, it had more resources and more funds. But if you're a thrill seeker who relishes elusive locales, an architecture buff with a predilection for time-warpy Stalinist designs, or a recipe hunter keen to uncover unsung cuisines, here's what you should know before adding Abkhazia to your Caucasian itinerary. So just a totally different, this is the, I guess where you would check in. Hello, I'm here. I thought this was crazy. This is a statue. It's on the water, but there's two naked people falling from the sky, which I don't know. I didn't really look into it though, so maybe there's like a deeper meaning that I'm just like missing. There's caves, there's some of the architecture. Here we have some of the costumes. They're an ancient people. Um, they are related to the Heniochi, a fierce tribe documented by ancient Greek explorers, but others believe that their progenitors were Kartvelian or Georgian, like not Georgia, United States Georgia, but Georgia, Eastern Europe Georgia. Regardless, everyone agrees that they are a culturally distinct Caucasian ethnic group. They have their own language, customs, and a pantheon of nature gods, though the majority of Abkhazians practice Abkhazian Orthodox Christianity and to a lesser extent Islam. This is not that far away from where Zalmoxis would have been worshipped. There was an ethnic conflict. It's currently under Russian occupation. It wants to kind of be its own thing. Here we have a really pretty resort. It's on the water, and so it has this sort of, not quite subtropical, but it has an interesting climate. The food, I guess, is really good. And 25% of all hazelnuts come from Abkhazia. And now you know. Weird, right? I love Nutella. Wine is a big thing. Stalin spent some time there. Human rights are a concern. And yeah, so definitely enjoyed looking into this place. Here we have another article that's pretty good. And we have this guy, and he's like, hello. He's actually a swim instructor. He's giving swimming lessons. Here we have a kid, right? You wouldn't see that in the United States, like just not anymore. Like maybe when my grandpa was a boy, you could just climb all over anything and everything. But nowadays, if some kid did that, they'd be like, get down, you're going to kill yourself. Here's the beach. Here we have an interesting kind of thing going on. Just some more really cool pictures. Look how clear that water is. It's probably cold, though, in some spots, I would think. I don't know. Let's see. Vladimir Selangin swimming off Gagra Beach. The 21-year-old works as a security guard in southern Russia and had seen the sea for the first time the day before this picture was taken. So if you think about the first time you ever saw the sea, it's a pretty powerful moment. I saw the sea in 1988, maybe. I went to Cape Cod, and I saw the ocean for the first time. This is a ruined college on the border with Georgia. Lots of abandoned stuff. This is a boxing club with another weird statue thing. So yeah, Abkhazia. All right, we're on the final stretch. Bruce Lee, King of Sewers, is a random article I came across. It's from 2018. And again, we're talking about tunnels, caves, people that live in a different world than most. So under Bucharest's biggest train station, there's a sewer system. And people live in it. In a sewer under Bucharest's biggest train station, a man covered with iron chains and tattoos sits on a matrimonial bed watching an action movie on a flat screen. Around him, the sewer is packed with men, women, and children, injecting themselves and sniffing glue. Their feet are drenched in muddy hot water flooding the whole tunnel, syringes and condoms floating everywhere. The man with the iron chains gets out of his bed, squeezes through a hole in the concrete wall, and sits behind a table where people come to refill their drug of choice one by one. He points at a tattoo on his leg that looks like Zorro drawn by a child with a scribbled message above. I've been living in the sewer since I was a child. I am the Terminator. I am the only one who succeeded in achieving something for the homeless. I turned darkness into light. Under my rule, everyone has their own money. They have to eat. They have all they need after a fashion. Light, heating, understanding, and parental advice. People outside are aloof. It's difficult to understand what we do here, but if each of them tells you their life story, how they've spent these last years with me, you won't believe it. Bruce Lee is one of the children abandoned during Romania's communist anti-abortion policy. After the 1989 revolution, they ran away from the orphanages and built an underground empire with its own laws and hierarchies. I spent 2 months in the underground to get to know Bruce Lee, the enlightened despot in the Bucharest sewers who built the main hub for the homeless in Romania. And then it talks about some of the people that live there, and that Bruce Lee is sort of like this guy who takes care of people. And at just a totally different world, right? Here we have some more pictures. There's some bad language in here, just a warning. I don't think there's anything else I really wanted to talk about. I just wanted to point out how wild this is. People just, living in the sewers. Here we have a pupper. Puppy. Definitely makes me appreciate sitting here in the comfort of my home. All right, enough with zodiac signs. What's your favorite medieval helmet? This is kind of funny. This has the different styles of helmets, but it's obviously it's like comical. Like you say, oh, I identify as a bascinet, or I identify as a frogmouth. And then there's some witty banter about what people would choose. I'm personally going with, I like a kettle hat. It's kind of ridiculous, right? I don't know that I want my face all covered up, even though it meant I would probably live. A fun thing to do if you're bored, or if you're at work and don't want to work, although I don't do that. I think about doing it. I was kind of a shitty employee when I was younger, so now that I'm older, I try really hard to be mindful of my time and energy and what I'm doing. And anyway, this is the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and we are going to look at the armory. And you can sort, you can refine more. But, wait, what did I do? Crap. Anyway, you get the idea. But you can look at all this crazy stuff that people use. Like, look at this. So this was made for Henry VIII, absolute unit. He was overweight and crippled with gout. And it was constructed for use for both on horse and on foot. It had a detachable breastplate. Just a really amazing piece of technology. This is a sallet type of helmet. We just looked at the pictures. And it's a helmet in the earliest surviving example of Renaissance armor in the antique style. It represents the head of the Nemean lion, whose pelt was worn as a headdress and cloak by the mythological hero Hercules. Hercules. Sword guard. Patral plates. I guess those would be here. This is a shirt of mail. I've always wanted a shirt of mail. I think it would just feel really kind of cool, right? Heavy, but interesting. So that's what you can do today. If you want to avoid reality for a little bit, go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art and look at all the armor, because it's really cool. This is the armor in his craft. This is just a sort of an academic article with resources and stuff, and it's just about armor, being an armorer. But it's an interesting read, and if you're into this sort of thing, it's really cool. I like the illustrations. The illustrations are probably my favorite. Lots and lots of pictures. with details as like how they were made, who they were made for, the way the different types were made, different kinds of armors, the way they made the metal. It goes into the whole thing, the cultural aspects of it, the designing, the the ones that were made for the kings, and then the ones that were made for like the regular people. Okay, we're going into conspiracy land now. Land. Ley lines. So ley lines are invisible, mystical energy lines that are believed by some to crisscross England, not just England, but the whole planet actually. There are people that think there are ley lines across the whole planet. So I grew up in the countryside connected to earth energy, so it makes complete sense to me that there are energy lines moving through the earth. And this kind of goes into a little bit about the ley lines, but it comes at it from like a personal, like someone sort of talking about the ley lines and their importance. But their existence was the legacy of pre-Roman inhabitants of Britain who worked out quite sensibly that the shortest distance between 2 points was a straight line and, being tougher than modern Britons, would tramp bravely through rivers and up hills to get to their destinations. Tracks were set out visually by lighting beacons on high points, for example, and then lining up markers and key points across the intervening land, including mounds and moats, stone circles, and more. Intersections acquired local significance, becoming meeting places and markets, then later burial mounds and temples. So there's like a whole conversation about what they are, what their meaning was. There's a cool BBC show that's, I think it's called In Search of Ancient Britain, and I think that's what it's called, but there's a guy who walks these ancient pathways and talks about the history and where they came from and what was there in the past. But after World War II, the potential of the ley line as a repository for all things mystical really started to take hold. So people started to get more into this. These lines. These lines have powers, and where they cross, there's certain energies, and where did it go? The crossroads where the ley lines would cross became common places to bury suicide victims and so-called witches, because I guess it was believed that would keep them from entering into the regular world again. More esoteric belief blossomed during the folk revival of the 1970s. So in the 1970s, it was this whole thing about ley lines was brought about. This is not related to ley lines. This is about like a modern day Carrington event, and that would be a geomagnetic superstorm that would take everything out. It would just fry transformers, fry our electrics, fry. I mean, it would take us back to the Stone Age. It would be really bad if that happened. And sometimes I wonder if like the really rich people know that this could happen, and that's why they spend so much money and have all these like, underground bunkers and their own farms and stuff, because we could be wiped out pretty easy. Here we go. This is the Metaphysical Times. This talks about the ley lines. Here we have the ley lines of the United States. Where they intersect, they are said to create places with special power, typically the habitat of Bigfoot or powerful spirit beings, the landing place of aliens, or serving as portals through which one communicates with other worlds or other states of being, spiritual centers, sacred places, and locations of political power. There is no universal agreement about what these lines are or if they exist at all, but there is a common agreement that some places seem to have a strong, if difficult to define, power. It would be in a place of some natural or supernatural power that you would want to have your religious architecture, your center of government, your home, your oracle, or your casino. So this goes into ley lines, but this person doesn't go too far out there. It says that places have power, and I'm sure that all of you have been somewhere at some point in your life where you've been like, wow, this place definitely feels different. There's definitely something different about this particular spot. And some people are more sensitive, like to I guess maybe magnetic fluctuations or something. Some people, um, can possibly actually feel ley lines. Now, you know how people use the dowsing sticks to find water? They have the stick and they hold it and they meditate or do whatever. And they find the water with the stick, it like wobbles. There are people that use the sticks to follow the ley lines. And interestingly enough, there does seem to be a little bit of truth into it. Here we talk about the geomagnetic field, which is a wild thing to think about. And here we have how the geomagnetic field is expressed across the whole of the land. This goes into it a little bit more. This goes into the math of the planet and how there are different fluctuations, and it has to do with the soils, the rocks, the composition, the shape, right? All these different things come together to create an area where it can be, where you walk from place to place, it can feel different. Now, I was kind of bummed because this page once contained the magical mystical ley line locator, a web toy created in 2011 that could take any location in England and find 3 ley lines that went through it. It worked because there are so many historical locations in England that, given a database of all of them, it is possible to draw 3 convincing ley lines through every single location. Actually, it could find 180 for every location, but that looked too ridiculous. The point of the site was to be facetious, to point out that ley lines are obviously ridiculously wrong. Google killed off the system that the locator relied on in 2017, and it hasn't worked since. Once again, the ley line locator was a joke. It did not work. Ley lines do not exist. Please do not email me about ley lines. You won't get a response. Sorry to be brutal about this, but people keep emailing me about ley lines. So don't email him about the ley lines, okay? You got it? And then, how spiritual is your house? This goes into the mystery, like what it was before it died. And if we go back here, we end up back with Tom Scott saying, no. All right, we're going to finish off with some art. This is Travis Chapman art. This is on my Christmas wish list. I would very much like one of these posters to hang on my wall. Look at that one. How cool is that? Everybody needs a raccoon surfing on an alligator with sparklers. It's so awesome. I really like ridiculous art. It makes me laugh. Here we have Edgar Allan Poe as Poe the Teletubby. I like the way this guy thinks. Prince Harry as Bigfoot. Prince Harry bowling a spare. Reference to the book that he just came out with. We have Greta. Looks like there's like 21 pages. Let's go to page 8. We've got Epstein. I didn't go this far back before. It's like Gandhi, Salt Bay. Yeah, this guy's awesome. Definitely going to be purchasing some art from him. And that should be for next time. So that's actually it. We have come to the end of this, and this is probably it. Definitely not my best work, but like I said, we're going to just get it out there so I can keep it moving and keep getting better and get more subscribers, I guess. I don't know, but not for the sake of getting subscribers. It's just I want people to be interested in stuff too and say, oh, wow, that's really interesting. That's so cool. That's what I like. I like other people to learn new things, because I think that's what life's all about. It's all about learning new things. And with that, I'm going to go get ready to work at my restaurant, B-Sides. And I hope everybody has a good day.